The night the dead walked through our village, only one man could see them. And the strangest part? He had been blind for 40 years. While the rest of us slept peacefully beneath the moon, the old man sat outside his hut, whispering to people who had died long before we were born. At first, we thought he had lost his mind. But then one morning, a grave in the village cemetery was found open. And that was when we realized something terrifying. The old man had not been talking to ghosts. The ghosts had been talking to him. And what they told him would soon change our village forever. Long before the noise of cities and the glow of electric lights reached our land, there was a quiet village called Umudara. It rested between thick forests and a slow, winding river that reflected the stars at night. The air smelled of roasted maize and palm oil. Goats wandered freely between mud houses. Children played barefoot in the red earth while elders gathered beneath the giant Baobab tree, telling stories older than memory itself. Life in Umudara moved slowly. Peacefully. But every village carries secrets. And Umudara's secret lived inside a small, lonely hut at the edge of the forest. That hut belonged to Elder Nnanna. Everyone knew him. Not because he was powerful. Not because he was wealthy. But because he was blind. No one in the village remembered exactly when he lost his sight. Some said it happened during a terrible fever when he was young. Others whispered that the spirits themselves had taken his eyes. But no one truly knew. What everyone did know was that Nnanna had lived without sight for nearly 40 years. And yet, he seemed to see more than anyone else. He rarely left his hut. But somehow he always knew what was happening in the village. If someone was sick, he knew. If a traveler was coming, he knew. If danger was near, he knew. At first, people thought it was coincidence. But after many years, coincidence no longer made sense. Still, no one questioned it. Until the night the dead began to visit him. But that was just the beginning. It started quietly. One evening, a young boy named Obi was returning from the river with a clay pot of water. The moon was high. The air was cool. As he passed Elder Nnanna's hut, he heard something strange. Voices. At first, Obi thought visitors had come. But when he looked closer, the old man was sitting alone beside a small fire. Yet he was talking. Talking as if someone was standing in front of him. Obi froze. The old man spoke slowly. Yes. I remember you. A pause. Then he nodded. Your son still lives in the eastern compound. Another pause. Then Nnanna whispered something that made Obi's blood run cold. He still cries for you. Obi dropped the clay pot. The sound echoed through the night. Nnanna turned his blind face toward the boy. Who is there? The old man asked. Obi ran. He ran all the way home without stopping. That night, he told his parents what he saw. But his father only laughed. Old people talk to themselves sometimes, he said. It is nothing. But deep inside, Obi knew what he had heard. And something about it did not feel normal. Not at all. The strange events did not stop. In fact, they became worse. A few nights later, another villager passed near Nnanna's hut. This time it was Mama Nnanna, an old widow who sold vegetables in the market. She also heard voices. Many voices. Men. Women. Even children. But when she looked toward the hut, she saw only one person. Elder Nnanna. Sitting calmly beside his fire. Speaking softly into the darkness. Mama Nnanna slowly stepped closer. Then she heard him say something that made her heart nearly stop. Ah, you again. He smiled. Yes, I remember the accident. A pause. Then his voice lowered. Your bones were never properly buried. Mama Nnanna gasped. Because the man he described had died 10 years earlier. She ran back to the village trembling. The next morning, whispers spread across Umudara like wildfire. People began to ask questions. Why was the blind elder speaking to invisible visitors? Who were these voices? And why did they only come at night? The village chief decided to investigate. But what he discovered would only make things stranger. One evening, the chief gathered 3 brave men. "We will go to his hut tonight," he said. "We must know the truth." They waited until midnight. The moon hid behind thick clouds. The forest felt unusually quiet. Together they approached the small hut at the edge of the village. At first, everything seemed normal. But then they heard it. Voices. Dozens of them. Soft whispers. Murmuring in languages both familiar and strange. The chief motioned for silence. Slowly they moved closer. Through the doorway they saw Elder Nnanna sitting calmly beside the fire. His blind eyes stared into the darkness. And around him? Nothing. No visitors. No guests. Yet he continued speaking. "Yes, yes. I will tell them." A pause. "I promise." The chief stepped forward. "Nnanna." The old man did not seem surprised. Instead he smiled slightly. "You came." The chief frowned. "Who are you speaking to?" Nnanna tilted his head. "To the one standing beside you." The men turned around quickly. But the doorway was empty. Only darkness. The chief's voice trembled. "What are you talking about?" Nnanna sighed. "The dead." Silence filled the hut. The fire crackled softly. One of the men laughed nervously. "Old man, you must be joking." But Nnanna shook his head slowly. "I lost my eyes many years ago," he said quietly. "But the spirits gave me another kind of sight." The chief stared at him. "What do you see now?" The old man's voice dropped to a whisper. "I see your father standing behind you." The chief froze. His father had died 15 years ago. And then Nnanna said something impossible. "He says the mango tree you planted over his grave is dying." The chief staggered backward. Because it was true. The tree had been withering for weeks. And no one else knew why. At that moment, fear entered the hearts of everyone in the hut. From that night forward, the village understood something terrifying. Elder Nnanna could see the dead. But the truth was even stranger than that. Because the dead had not come to scare him. They had come for help. Night after night, spirits visited his hut. Some whispered. Some cried. Some begged. They told him stories. Secrets. Warnings. And unfinished business. Many of them had died without peace. Some had been buried wrongly. Others had been betrayed by the living. And they all wanted one thing. Justice. But that was not the most shocking part. The real twist came 1 week later. A spirit arrived who did not belong to the past. It was someone who had died only 2 days earlier. A young hunter from the village. And what he told Nnanna changed everything. Late that night, the spirit spoke urgently. "They lied," it whispered. "They said a leopard killed me. But that is not true." Nnanna listened carefully. "Then what happened?" he asked. The spirit's voice trembled. "One of our own killed me." Nnanna felt the air grow cold. "Who?" he asked. But the spirit did not answer immediately. Instead it said something chilling. "He is in the village council." Nnanna's heart pounded. Because the village council contained only 5 men. Including the chief. The next morning, Nnanna called for the elders. When they arrived, he told them everything. At first they refused to believe him. But then he described details about the hunter's death that no one else knew. The wound. The location. The hidden weapon. And slowly, the truth began to surface. One of the council members had indeed murdered the hunter. For land. For power. The village was shocked. But the revelations did not end there. Because the spirits were not finished speaking. And their next message would bring the entire village to its knees. 3 nights later, the spirits returned in greater numbers than ever before. Their whispers filled Nnanna's hut like rushing wind. Some were angry. Some were afraid. And one voice rose above the others. Louder. Stronger. Ancient. The river is coming. Nnanna stiffened. What do you mean? The spirit replied. The dam upstream will break. A terrible silence followed. Nnanna felt his chest tighten. When? Tomorrow night. The old man grabbed his walking stick. The next morning he rushed to the village square. The river will flood, he shouted. The villagers stared at him. Move to the high ground. Some laughed. Some hesitated. But the chief remembered the mango tree. And the murdered hunter. So he made a decision. We listen to the elder, he said. The entire village moved to the hills before sunset. And that night, the dam broke. Water roared down the valley like a raging beast. It swallowed fields. Huts. Paths. Everything. But the villagers survived. Because a blind old man had listened to the dead. After that night, no one in Umudara ever doubted Elder Nnanna again. They treated him with deep respect. Not because he was powerful. But because he carried a burden few humans could understand. He lived many more years. Still speaking to the spirits. Still guiding the living. Until one quiet evening, he sat beside his fire. And never woke up again. But the villagers say something strange happened that night. The forest filled with whispers. Soft. Gentle. Like voices welcoming someone home. In our land, elders say something simple but powerful. Not all blindness is darkness. Some people lose their sight. But gain wisdom the rest of us cannot see. I did not understand this story when I first heard it as a child. But I do now. Because sometimes the world beyond ours is closer than we think. And sometimes, the dead still have something to say. But that was just the beginning. Because the greatest stories are not about fear. They are about listening. Listening to wisdom. Listening to truth. Listening, even when the voice comes from the unseen. And if this story taught you something, don't forget to subscribe to Tales Under Baobab.